Welcome back to another week and another video of Gran Turismo Sport. This week, I'm coming to America. I create a new account in the Americas region and I start from the bottom ranks. I build up my rank win after win, qualifying on pole with a 30.1, which put me on pole for most races in these lower ranks, and I rack up win after win. Qualifying with a 1 minute and 30.1 second lap, I was in pole for a lot of my races and finished in first. These races are pretty uneventful, but I had to go through the hard yards to build up my DR rank. It took me about 15 races, most of them wins, to finally get up to rank B. And this is where things got good. I finally started to get a little bit of competition. Even though I was still starting at the front of the grid, I had a good time battling with some people, and this is probably one of the only races where I actually had a good race with some people, so I hope you enjoy the highlights of this race. Now, the main reason why I created an account in the Americas region was basically due to my availability. I can only really play in the morning and during the day in the Oceania region, and this leads to pretty much empty lobbies where a lot of the field is C or D, maybe a couple of A's, a couple of B's, and possibly one A+ player. Now, this isn't very good for my DR. A win doesn't net me much ranking points, and a loss takes a lot away from me. So I decided to switch account, start from the bottom, but at least this way I can get more competitive races and the lobbies are full, which hopefully teaches me to become a better driver. Racing against people that aren't as fast as me doesn't really teach me anything, and racing against people that are quicker than me will. And in the case here, the guy in front, he's quicker than me. So I'm going to take this opportunity to learn some things from him. Although he's driving the GTR, he's going to be taking some different lines, but I'm still going to try and take notice of where he's quicker than me and where I'm quicker than him. Now, starting a new account, or even a save game for that matter, wasn't an easy task. I didn't have any money and I didn't have any cars. I had to grind through some of the single player stuff to get enough money to afford a Group 2 car, but this paid off quite quickly. Winning quite a few races has netted me already a couple of $1 million in the game, so I'm now able to purchase a new car whenever I want. Now here I'm focusing a little bit too much in front and I just throw it away. It's quite unusual. I was very good on that corner. It's a section of the race I make up a lot of time against other people, and it was the first time I actually lost it on that corner, and I was quite surprised at myself. I knew exactly what I did wrong. I used too much accelerator, too much steering angle, but I was just surprised. And here I give up fourth because I was driving looking backwards. I was driving with my rear view mirror and not looking forwards, and I basically just ran wide and gave up fourth. But it's okay, I've got a couple of positions to make up. I know the guy in second, I've raced him a few times already. I've got a quicker pace than him. I generally have 10 to 20 seconds per race quicker pace than him. So I know he's going to be holding up these two guys if they are faster than him, and I know I'm going to have a chance to attack, but I just have to be patient and play the waiting game. Now, going back to creating a new account in the Americas, it was quite an easy process. Didn't cost me anything. I can just share the account with my primary account, and my PS Plus subscription applies. I did have one concern about the lag, and it was a little bit unusual through most races. I get 2 to 3 bars, which is the same like what I get in the Oceania region, because from Australia we have to connect to Japan, and we never get more than 3 bars. So I'm used to playing like this. But when it drops, I was a little bit unsure. Most races I had 3 bars, some races 2, some races 1, and I don't really know what caused the fluctuations. The relative distance between Australia and Japan, and Australia and probably the west coast of America, which I'm assuming is where a lot of the servers are, is effectively the same. So I didn't expect too much of a difference, and I'm quite happy with the experience I had. Hopefully I haven't caused any issues for people racing against me, but it's also funny to notice that a lot of Americans have bad pings to their own servers. Now back to the race, not much has changed. I'm still in 5th and I haven't figured out a nice way to pass 4th. Not in a way that won't cause a risk to him. So I'm just biding my time, holding position behind him, hopefully putting a bit of pressure on him. He brakes a little bit early for this corner and I rear-end him. We're okay from that, but hopefully he's got the idea that I'm behind him and he needs to drive a bit faster. Now on the main straight he aggressively tries to break the slipstream. and I won't try and follow him too much through this. I think a straighter line is better than a zigzag line. Try and get him to forget that I'm there, get a little bit of a slipstream, but he aggressively tries to break it again. Now here he kind of confuses me, comes from the inside, goes to the outside, swivels back and forth, and I didn't really know which line to take, so I was expecting to brake later, he brakes early, and I had to swerve to miss him. But now I'm right on his tail. I'm getting concerned that second and third are driving away from us. Fourth is really holding me back right now, and I know that I'm quicker than second. My hopes were that these guys were closer together and fighting each other, pushing each other around, and me sitting back observing and taking an opportunity when presented. But that's not the case right now, and at the moment my only real option is to play around with a pit strategy. Most people in these races were pitting at the end of lap 6. I was pitting at the end of lap 7. I found that in the later stage of the race, less fuel, better tyres, I could really put some seconds on some guys, to the point where I could pull maybe 2 to 3 seconds on the last lap compared to someone who's done a 7-lap stint. So if I decided to pit early, I would get caught with the traffic behind me. If I pit at the same time as these guys, I'm going to be in the same position. So I'm going to stick with my original strategy and pit at the end of lap 7. Hopefully I can do a clean lap on the 7th lap. It's going to be a slow lap, but these guys aren't as quick as I could be. So I'm hoping that that slow lap is not too far off their lap. If I lose a second or two, that's okay. Anything more than 3 and 4, then I've really lost out on my strategy. As I head into turn 1, the hairpin, I'm going to make a mistake. I get on the gas a bit early, the rear steps out on me. I managed to save it, but that could have been a lot worse. I could have ended up on the inside wall. However, I lost the drive out of that corner, and I'm now 2 seconds behind 4th. This has really compromised my pit strategy. I was really hoping to be on the rear bumper of 4th as he went into the pits, did my as good as possible lap 7 to really minimize that gap. And now I really need to focus on closing the gap now to make that work. And it's going to be quite hard as tyre wear is now almost halfway down on the left hand side. I'm really struggling for grip here. But I think second is slowing up. The gap has increased from second to third to fourth, but I think second is starting to slow down. I think he's really struggling with his tyre grip right now, and I think things might start to play into my favour. As Fuji is a clockwise circuit, it's inherently going to have more right-hand corners versus left-hand corners. Now when you turn right, there's more load and stresses on the outside tyre, which is the left in this case, and you really start to feel the effects on lap 5 and 6 in this race, especially on lap 7. Now if you look up ahead, second has dived off into the pits early. He's gone for the undercut strategy, whereby you pit in early, you come out on a fresh set of tyres while everyone else is on worse tyres, and put in some quicker lap times in hopes to create a gap. I don't know if this is going to work for him, but I need to focus on my race. I really need to close this gap onto the guy in front, as it's lap 6. I know these two are going to pit at the end of lap 6, but I need to stay out for another lap after that. So I really need to focus and close this gap. As I come through this corner, I run a little bit wide and I don't make it back over the track in time, and I get another penalty for that. Another thing to manage in this race. As it stands, I've now got 2.6 seconds worth of penalty. If you noticed earlier, I originally had over 3 seconds. I can slowly lose some of this through the course of the race without having to pay any attention to it, but it's still going to come into a factor at the end of the race. So we'll see how I can manage that. Hopefully I can get it down to within a second or so, where I'll just stop early before the line, whittle it down, and then cross the finish line. Now, I'm pretty impressed with lap 6. I've now closed the gap to within a second. As the guys in front are really struggling with their grip, I'm quite confident how I can handle the car at this point of the race. I'm making a few slight errors which have cost me, but I'm effectively still gained a lot on these two guys. Now as predicted, they're going to pull off into the pits, and I'm going to continue on with my lap 7. I'm going to tell you up front, I pull it off. It's kind of a clean lap considering. I'm going to just speed up time here because there's no one else around, there's nothing really to watch. But if you can see through the hyperspeed, I am doing some clean lines, no real errors. It's slow, but it's probably as best as I could do considering. I stuck with the strategy of having my first stint in 7 laps. This was my main strategy with most races and I was quite comfortable with it. I'm curious to know what you guys did out there, whether you versed it or went hards and mediums or if you even mixed up the tyres. Let me know your comments below. Now, as you see, I pull out of the pits. I was just under a second as they entered the pits. I'm now 3 to 4 seconds behind 4th place. It's not bad considering, not as good as I had wished, but it's manageable and I can work with this. Now I'm going to speed this through here because it's quite boring by myself. However, if you can look, I'm actually pulling a lot of time on these guys. I'm almost averaging, that was almost 2 seconds that lap, and now this is my quickest lap. Lap 9, I'll always do my quickest lap here. Fresh tyres, lowest amount of fuel, and I've pulled up to this group quite quickly. Second strategy of undercutting has not paid off. He's now swarmed by 3rd and 4th, and me in a minute. He's on tyres that are a lap older than 3rd and 4th, and 2 laps older than mine. He's really lost out on that. I think he should have stayed in and pitted on lap 6. He had a comfortable gap behind 3rd. So something to consider when you're racing next time, whether the undercut will work for you or maybe it won't. Now as we come through here, we're all in the slipstream, but I can't really get much advantage of this because everyone else is in the slipstream. They're all going faster and I can only go as fast as I can. So I just hold my position, and right now it's looking meaty. I'm hoping that there's some argy-bargy and someone's going to make a mistake, and I want to capitalize on that. So as we come through, 2 wide, little bit of a push there. 2nd, 3rd is now 4th as I come through. I kind of screw that exit up a little bit, just dropping off back here, but it gives me enough room to just complete my lines. I close the gap right now. Now I'm going to try and go into the inside here. This is what the NSX is really good at, is this corner here. I can keep it quite tight. Got a little bit scared. I thought he might run me off the road. I don't know what happened to 2nd just then, but he's decided to back off. Maybe he cut the corner a lot and decided to serve his penalty then. I think that was a bit of a waste. He should have done it at the end. So now I'm in 4th with 2nd and 3rd right in front of me. Let's see how this goes. The GTR pulls off to the inside but doesn't quite make it work, and resulting in a bit of a tap. Not necessarily clean in my book, but they're not really affected by it, so they can continue on. Now there's a bit of a love tap here. Gives me an opportunity. I felt like I stuck to my line. He turned into me. As we come through here, I'm going to try and seal it off. I get pushed a little bit wide here, but this is what I don't like. The guy that was 2nd, who's now 4th, effectively pushes me wide and also runs me off the road. I wasn't very happy about that move. He wouldn't have been able to make that work if I wasn't there. He would have been straight off the track. So I'm a little bit disgruntled here. Now back into the slipstream. I can't make full use of this. I've got the slowest of the 3 types of cars here. The Lexus I think being the quickest, the GTR being 2nd and the NSX being last. Now a move's going to take place here, but he completely overcooks it and sends himself off the track. Now it's almost a lap later and I'm in the same scenario. We'll see how we can make this work as we turn into this left-hander here. I'm going to try and close the gap as I can do. And this right-hander that's coming up, I know I'm really good at. I'm going to try and stick to the inside, keep my tight line, and it's going to work. I'm going to come through and take position. Now, yeah, again I get run off the road. I'm not happy again. He's done the same thing. He used a line that was not possible for him to use without me, nor gave me any consideration for the space of my car in that corner. Now, I'm not trying to call this guy out. I'm just pointing out things that I don't do. I don't race like that. If I'm going to overtake someone, I'm going to give them space. I'm not going to run them off the road. So here we are, another lap, and I'm in the same spot. As I come through here, I want to get onto the power as early as possible after the apex, but I get onto it a little bit too soon and the rear steps out of me. Another small mistake in this race that's cost me. I think I could have gotten 2nd quite easily if I was consistent and didn't make those mistakes. At this point of the race on the straight again, I really wish I had a VTEC kicked in yaw button, because I've got nothing on the straight compared to the Lexus. I'm not going to be able to do or make anything out of the turn 1 move. I'm just going to try and brake as late as I can and close the gap as much as I can for the next series of corners. To the point where I think I almost hit him in this corner. He brakes a little bit early, I brake pretty much on time, and I think there's a tap as we go through there. Now, I'm right on his bumper, and I'm going to take advantage of the corners coming up, but he brakes a little bit early on me and compromises my line, compromises my speed, and I've got a really bad exit coming out of here. And he's going to brake early again right now, and I had no choice but to duck to the inside because I know I could do it. And I've got the move. I think that was fairly clean in my book. Minimal contact. He was braking extremely early, and that's the downside of the undercut, especially at the 5 lap mark. He's now really struggling for tyre wear as I focus chasing down second place right now. He makes a mistake in this corner, and I do this corner pretty well, and the gap is almost gone. So I've got a lap and a half to try and do something with second. I'm going to be right on his tail through here. You can really see the difference in cornering speed because I pitted that 1 lap later. I've got the better tyres, and my car is naturally a better handling car than the GTR. But it's just not as good on the straight line, and I screw up again. That's another little mistake that's cost me. I'm now not right on his tail, and I'm just trailing on the straight again behind the faster car. The reoccurring thing for me is just lack of straight line speed in this race. I'm not going to be able to do much. I'm pulling on him a little bit. I'm going to try and make something of turn 1. Got a little bit of a run on him, but I brake a little bit too early and it's not going to work. He brakes pretty much on the dot where he needs to, and I'm just going to tuck him behind him. Now I've got 1 lap to do something. I know I've got the better tyres, I've got the better speed. I'm going to make use of these corners coming up, and you can see the speed difference right here. I really close up on him. Now he's going to go out wide, he's going to struggle with understeer, and I'm going to make this corner work for me. I tap him a bit, and I felt a little bit bad for that, so I kind of braked early and I gave him the position back. And then I screw up again. This is just another mistake that's cost me. I've now lost all my speed on this section, and I'm going to concede 2 spots. At this point my race is pretty much done. There's not much I can really do. They're in a section that's not really a passing section unless I make a really aggressive move, which I'm not going to do. I screwed up. I'm the one that needs to suffer for it, not others. So there might be something here, but it's not going to happen. And they brake really early here. You can see the difference in tyre grip that I have versus them, where I caused that, but I wasn't expecting them to brake so early. So it was a good race. I managed 5th overall. I think I should have been 2nd, but if I kept to my lines, if I kept consistent, I could have achieved that, but I didn't. So here I am in 5th, and it was probably the most enjoyable race for me for this week. Let's see what next week brings. Thanks for watching.